Well, you guys asked for this, and DTinaglia said it was okay. So here's PlayBack Commentary, Episode 3. DTinaglia's Sons of Garmadon Season Premiere Review. DTinaglia has been the largest and most popular LEGO Ninjago animation channel on YouTube, which is why it's a good idea for us to take a closer look into DTinaglia's Sons of Garmadon Season Premiere, and look at what DTinaglia did wrong, and how he improved it in the next episode. Welcome back, guys, to another episode of PlayBack Commentary. The biggest issues come from the opening scene of the Sons of Garmadon premiere, and that is what we're mostly going to be talking about in this video. After watching the opening scene, what is the biggest takeaway about the opening scene? The answer is nothing, other than a little bit of exposition.
Who are you? Vindicta. Save the Oni realm. Only you can. What now?
There isn't much character motivation or a lot of anything of interest in this opening scene. Honestly, DTinaglia could have made a Star Wars opening credits, and it would have had the same amount of character emotion, character motivation, and just about everything else that this opening scene gave us. It's a pretty bland and uninteresting opening to a season. We don't learn anything from Lloyd as a character. We don't know why he's a ninja. We don't know why he fought that four-armed guy. And if you say it was to protect the alien that came from the portal, I would say you're wrong. Because Lloyd doesn't care for the life of the alien at all, considering after he was stabbed, he didn't go to check on him to see if he was wounded or dead. And afterwards, he just left the body there. Another thing about Lloyd's character is, since he doesn't go to check on the alien after he's been stabbed, we don't care about him. If the main character doesn't care about him, why should we care about him? If Lloyd doesn't care about him, why should we care about him? And that is a rather large complaint that I have with this opening scene. Another thing is, why does Lloyd trust the alien? Why does he trust what the alien says? I mean, if Lloyd doesn't even care about him enough to go check on him to see if he's wounded or dead, then why does Lloyd trust what he says about an Oni realm? It doesn't make a lot of sense logically, and it doesn't make a lot of sense emotionally. Another thing is MacGuffins. A MacGuffin is an object or device in a movie or a book that serves merely as a trigger for the plot. And that is basically what the whole episode is about. In this case, it's the Mask of Vengeance. And usually the audience doesn't care about the MacGuffin. We don't really care about Lloyd getting a Mask of Vengeance. We care more about the characters and what they do with it, and how they interact. How do they think? How do they feel? What do they feel? Why do we feel that way? That is what it should be about. It shouldn't be about getting the mask. It should be about, what does the mask represent? How does it make the characters work? Does it create a character dynamic? That's what it should be about. And this opening scene doesn't set up Lloyd as a character. How does he feel? What does he feel? And why do we feel this way? Lloyd doesn't feel sad or remorse or guilt or anything after the alien dies. Why does he not feel a sense of responsibility for it? That's a question that should be answered, and it should be answered in his character. Now, maybe it comes up later in a later episode of why he doesn't, but right now, I just don't understand. I don't really care for Lloyd as a character right now. I'm now going to explain to you guys why we care more about character and story opposed to the MacGuffin itself. Every story in human history can be summed up typically by the hero's journey. And the hero's journey breaks down to the ordinary world, the hero gets a call to adventure, The character crosses a threshold, the character faces trials, the character meets with the mentor, the character fights the bad guy, the character overcomes the bad guy, the character goes back to the way things were at the beginning of the story. That is the bare bones of a story. And since it is the bare bones, that's why we care more about story and character. And we don't want a bare bones story. A bare bones story is boring. I think we can all agree that a story without character or anything is dry. It's boring. We don't want to watch it. And that's one thing this series is starting out to be like. And I don't want the story to be bare bones minimum. I really don't. As much as I want to enjoy this episode, I just can't. And it's because of that opening scene and how it doesn't set up anything. That is my main problem with this and why I can't enjoy it as a episode. Everything else in the episode is fine. But I also said that about the opening scene. It's just fine. The Cole and Skylar relationship is, well, fine. The character dynamic with Kai is fine. Cole growing the forearms was pretty cool. And, Mr. E is set up to be a rather interesting villain. And this episode would be much better, to me, if the opening scene was handled much better. If you guys think I'm critiquing DTinaglia too much, well, in his next episode, he actually does the call to adventure right. The ninja have to retrieve the Mask of Hatred from the Sons of Garmadon, and they get captured. That is quite possibly the bare bones of the story. However, the episode is much better because of scenes like this.
Alright guys, I know you aren't incredibly experienced with raiding enemy bases, but...
Actually, I'll have you know I was part of that raid on your and Nauticon's pirate base.
Low blow, Zora.
Well, I guess I was already inside of the Jinn Blade by then. Hey, I've already apologized for that so many times. He manipulated me. And I joined Yang at one point. We've all been on the wrong side once or twice.
Nah, actually I haven't.
And that's why you're not a very interesting character. Anyways.
It's scenes like this that make the story much more interesting than just having to retrieve the mask and getting captured. DTinaglia even goes a step further and adds villain character dynamics.
Hello. I've got my mask. Have you got yours, Mr. E? Gosh, what a dumb name.
Hey, UV, take it easy on the little guy. I haven't got mine either.
I just don't see how he went from a dry story in the first episode to such an interesting character dynamic in the second episode. I don't understand why he didn't just make the first episode more like the second episode. However, I can't complain too much because he's clearly improved the character dynamics and story with the second episode opposed to the first one. And I can't recommend the second episode to you enough. It's a wonderful episode. It really is. It has great character dynamic, dialogue, and, it doesn't just feel like we have to get the Mask of Vengeance. It's really a good story. It's really interesting. And the characters help distract from the plot of retrieving the MacGuffin. It's really great.
Where are we? Who are you people?
Oh, the sensei and his mistress? No one really knows.
I think that's going to do it for this episode of PlayBack Commentary. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I hope DTinaglia watches this and takes these criticisms to heart. And I hope you guys will watch his series because it's pretty good so far, and I hope that he makes more episodes like episode 2 and stays away from episodes like episode 1. And I'm really excited for this series, and I hope you guys are too. Anyways, guys, the only way to end an episode about DTinaglia is to end it the way DTinaglia would have. See you around.